Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the release of Stellar Crown this coming weekend, a brand new Pokemon TCG set that seems to have quite a few impactful cards, which we'll give our opinions on and what we are most excited to be trying out first. We are going to be bringing back an old segment. City League Watch makes its return as city leagues have resumed over in Japan. So we'll talk about that, get a little bit of a sneak peek at what's happening over there in Japan with the Pokemon trading card game and what are some of the decks that are starting to see early success over there. And we're going to, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And then we're going to close out this week's episode by talking about Baltimore regionals this coming weekend, the first regionals of the season over here in the U.S. And we did a Q&A over on the podcast Twitter account, reached out for questions. We got over 50 questions. We're going to answer quite a few of them. And then we're going to get over to our bonus episode exclusive to YouTube members. If you would like to join and get access to a 30-minute bonus episode of the podcast every single week, be sure to join the membership program down below. Is a membership program? What do you even call it? Become a YouTube member today. Just click the little
Yeah.
join button down below if you are interested in showing your support that way and getting a little bit of extra content from us. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy? How's your week been?
Doing pretty good, Chip. Doing pretty good. Didn't do as much streaming over the weekend as I would have liked, but getting back into it this week. We got the Stellar Crown coming up at the end of the week, or I mean, I guess as people are listening to this, literally tomorrow. So a
Yeah.
couple days away from Stellar Crown, which is kind of exciting. But I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more once we take a look at the results from the city leagues that have started back up again over in Japan. They've had a little bit of time to develop the format, the meta over there, because they've had the access to the set for a little while. I guess one thing I will clarify, we did make a mistake last week. Not a huge mistake, but they don't actually have the first half of Surging Sparks yet over in Japan. They just have access to the two decks, the Sylveon deck and
It's two
the
cards, really.
yeah, they just got like Cerulege EX and Sylveon EX, as well as like they got the Mixer card, I think, as
Yeah, the
well,
A spec. Yeah.
and Terra Orb, which is a pretty powerful Pokemon search card. But we're 3 days away from them getting the actual set. They get it in on Friday, so not the full set. They'll be getting the first half of it, and they get the second half like 3 weeks before we get Surging Spark. So we're not too far off, but we're about a week and a half off from them having half the set before us. So still pretty close, but thought I would just clarify that because someone mentioned that in the comments on the last video. So appreciate y'all out there keeping us honest. But yeah, pretty normal week for me as usual. What about you, Chip?
Yeah. Nothing too exciting. Football came back. Professional football came back this weekend. So I spent the whole weekend watching football and it was awesome. Love to see it. And yeah, just chilled. Had a pretty relaxing week overall. I did start on a project of like kind of reorganizing my office a little bit, moving some stuff around, really cleaning up a lot of cards. Anyone who is a Pokemon card person has probably, or any trading card game person really, has probably experienced the bulk takeover at some point in their life. And I've definitely gotten to the point where I have just little piles of Pokemon cards kind of across my desk. And then, there's a couple on a shelf here or there as well. So I'm trying to tackle that problem. I don't remember who I heard say it first, but I heard someone one time say, you've got to, you've got to take over your bulk before it takes over you when in regards to keeping your Pokemon space clean. So definitely teetered a little farther away from the cleanliness and getting some organization done. And man, it is I've got a pretty good system for organizing cards. Like I keep them in boxes in set release order, and I keep the cards in the boxes like uh in set order, which is like really great and super makes it super easy to find any specific card I'm looking for. But it is quite a pain whenever you let, stacks of a couple thousand cards build up that you need to organize into those boxes. And then it becomes a daunting task that you just keep putting off. So we're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah, and then the part from there that's the like. But now I've gone through that experience. I mean, I've had my desk clear of the bulk problem for years now. I keep my desk pretty clear, but back in the day, I definitely had the same experience. And then like the next step after that has to be being consistent with it.
Yeah.
and now I
'Cause I've
can't
got
like
I've had that experience as well where
yeah.
I had it clean. I had it messy, and then I, like, got everything in the boxes, had it clean, and then, here we are doing it again.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where it annoys me when my desk is too cluttered, so that's, like, good, it keeps me in check. Then at some point when there's, like, a little bit too much stuff on it, I'm like, "Alright, gotta stop whatever I'm doing, clean it up, get it set," and I'm like, "Alright, cool, we're back, we're reset." But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have that experience or currently are people are listening to this and looking down at their desk and being like, "Man, they're right. I should clean up my bulk."
Yes, it's very quickly can take a like, I don't know if I roll back, yeah, you can see a few, I guess you can't quite see, I've got a few white 5-row boxes down there that I just have filled up with bulk cards that I need to take to a shop in the area that'll take bulk. Because yeah, it's time to just move on, get rid of it. Part of me was kind of waiting for the bulk price to, like, increase a little bit, so I was kinda just like, "Just put the box in the corner, we'll forget about it," but it hasn't happened. I don't think we're ever gonna get back to the days where commons and uncommons were 7 cents a piece. That was
7? I remember
yeah,
4, I don't remember 7.
dude, it
Well, maybe
was
around the
7.
holidays, maybe around, like, yeah, Christmas time at
It
some
was
point, right?
right after Guardians Rising came out because I bought a case of Guardians Rising, and I remember because a white 5 row, it says it fits 5,000 cards, but it really fits, like, closer to 7,000. Uh I remember taking, yeah, a 5-row box to I think it was an ARG Circuit series, and the 5-row was just filled with cards, and they handed me $500.
Sheesh, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
bulk, I think they're buying it like 1 cent or something like that.
Yeah, some places aren't literally just not even buying it,
Yeah, people are playing too much Pokemon these days. Everyone there's
and they're
just so
making too many
much.
cards now, yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy to get the bulk. The market's flooded. Yeah, I don't know if it's never gonna get back to the numbers it was ever again, but maybe it'll stabilize around like 2 cents, 1.5 or something at some point.
Hop back up a little bit.
Um, yeah, it's been a while though. Yeah, I only ever sold now I'm thinking about that, I only ever sold bulk once, like a long, long time ago. And then
What
since
do you do with
then,
your, like, rotated cards? You just keep them?
yeah, I just keep them around. I have like a couple boxes, which is like rotated stuff in it. Hold on to it. Like I mean, there's like the potential for like old decks. Um, and then I don't know, expanded could make a comeback at some point. I don't have anything older than
Black and
black and
white.
white. Yeah, black and white is like the oldest set that I have.
I think I bought a lot of
Cards.
your Heart Gold, Soul Silver stuff at a regionals, like, in 2018 or something like that.
Yeah, I think you
You
definitely did.
remember me and
Yeah,
I think Brian Hunter, like, dug through and bought a bunch of stuff?
yeah, yeah. I got rid of all of it. Um, yeah, less cards the
So you still
better.
get to
Yeah,
play with them sometimes, if you ever play my old decks, so you
true.
you still have them in a
I still get the
sense.
value. Yeah, I got rid of all that, and then, yeah, I only have black and white on stuff now, and I am keeping it. I think at some point, though, I'm just gonna be like, they're probably never bringing back expanded, at least is the thing. I don't know, maybe that's what, like, another thing I'll just be like, even if they do bring it back, I just won't play in expanded tournaments. Maybe that's will be my commitment. Um,
That is kind of the interesting thing about this current system of the invite structure, right? It's just top 125. Um, and I guess, like, if you're not someone who cares about stipend chasing anymore, there's no, like, incentive to get a tier 1 invite or anything like that, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, if you're a good player that is like, I mean, and when I'm saying good player, like, I mean, like, if you're like a top 1% player like yourself, you can literally go to 5 tournaments and probably get your invite if you wanted to.
yeah, that is like a yeah, I didn't really think about that, but I guess that is, like, an interesting thing about, like, the new system. Yeah, if you go to, like, maybe 2 ICs and then
Yeah,
3
3
regionals or
regionals.
something like that, and you just, like, get finishes at all of them. You might have to go, like, to a 6th regional, maybe you have to get a little bit better at one of the
And then
regionals, but
someone would probably like you won't go to cups and challenges, but someone theoretically could just like I think if you literally just went to 5 majors, you might be like kind of on the lower end of it. You probably would still be okay, but
yeah,
you maybe wouldn't quite get there. I mean, I know you're planning to win one, so you'll just get the invite that way anyway, right? But
plan.
um it is kind of that is kind of a cool thing about the system is like
Gives you more, like,
previously people felt like they had to go to everything. I don't know.
yeah, I guess it, like, does kinda give you a little bit more of, like, a I think I mentioned this before as well, like, choose your own adventure kinda thing where it's like maybe I was saying that about last year's format more than anything. No, it feels a little bit more so maybe with this year's format, I don't know. But, like, yeah, you can, like, pick the tournaments you wanna go to, just go to those, and then, see what happens from there. I think the biggest thing is just, like, for most people, just changing the mindset of, like, how much you value, like, just going to a regional. I feel like regionals were, like, almost not undervalued, but, like, people kinda just, like, looked at them away as a way to get championship points and didn't really try to win them. Like, it's not like people were not trying to do well or win, but like I don't know if you, and I hopefully that mindset changes, and I think it will for newer people getting into the game for sure.
Well, a
But
lot of people too, they just want to play.
yeah, and of course that's fine. That's
Yeah.
exactly. But it was more so the people who were like, it almost felt like a chore. Like I got to go there. I got to get my top 256 to get my
Yeah.
invite. It was like I don't know. The mindset around major tournaments in the past definitely felt weird, but I think it'll get better and healthier moving forward. It's kind of like going to be some of like the growing pains for like the current community moving forward. I think people who like just get into the game though, like will look at the new system and won't question it. Really,
Yeah.
they'll be, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's cool. All right, I know what I have to work with. It's more of just like the existing, more competitive players who have like the growing pains to get through. Um, but yeah, the new set, it's out in Japan. They're playing tournaments, city leagues, which are basically just league
Yep.
cups, right?
Yeah. We were gonna start just talking about.
Oh, go
We
ahead.
got this document that we follow every
Oh,
week.
I was like scrolled down a little bit. I was like, all right, we're doing city leagues first. Stellar Crown's coming out. They're
There we
playing with
go.
it over in Japan, but let's first talk about it's coming out over here finally. They've had it over in Japan for a month? More. It's
In July
pre-world,
sometime,
right?
I think. Yeah, yeah.
Jeez, bro. Disgusting. Now they haven't had any majors in the format yet. Neither have we. But
And
they
they
have
also haven't even
had
had city leagues.
yeah, it's literally just been their gym battles, which are like league challenges and like they compare. But you can't even earn championship points at the city leagues. I'm pretty sure. Like it's just like locals basically. It's like
Yeah.
official locals. Um, so we've had results from there, but obviously being less competitive, there's been more, you know, random stuff doing well. But they've had their city leagues. So it finally comes out here, or comes out for everyone else besides Japan, I guess, on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. For anyone who's curious, who's newer to everything, the new sets always come out on PTCG Live the Thursday of the major set release week at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So consistently across the board. So far, they could change it up, but
Yeah. Yep. So it'll be live. I get if you're listening to this podcast the day it comes out, it will be live tomorrow. So you don't have to wait too long to get your hands on the new cards. I know Azul is going to be excited to be streaming the new set. I think you've said before when people ask you like what your favorite Pokemon format is, you have said in the past the next one, right? You get
yeah.
excited for like what's coming up and getting your hands on like the new cards and experimenting. So you're going to be streaming right over there on your Twitch and YouTube channels. Some of the new decks.
Yeah, I'll be live on Twitch, on YouTube, Azul GG, for both of those. I might try and be live on TikTok again. I had my like TikTok. Dude, TikTok is just so weird. They like force you to use like their live TikTok studio. They don't like allow you to like stream stuff through OBS. But like I had my live access revoked, so I can't stream
What did you
anymore through it.
do?
Nothing. It's just if you don't stream in within a month, you lose
Mm.
your access.
How'd you stop streaming? Was it not like was it too much of a headache
Their
on
thing is a
TikTok?
little bit the thing that annoyed me, and then like, there a lot of traveling came up around the same time. The thing that annoyed me is like when you're not interacting with their client, it'll ping you and like make a noise, and that ticked me off. So I was like, all right, I'm done with this right now. And then a lot of travel came up. So I don't think I've like streamed on TikTok in like 2 months or something like that. But I want to start doing it again. I think it's probably worth the investment. I found out a couple more things I can do with like OBS to integrate my chat and then have everything look cleaner and nicer over on the TikTok stream. Like kind of like project the same thing I stream on YouTube and Twitch. I put it over on TikTok exactly the way it is. So I was like, all right, trying to get back to it. Okay, my status is revoked, so I'm working on getting that back. Hopefully, I can get it back by Thursday. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see on that. So I might be live over there as well. But yeah, I'll be streaming a lot of Stellar Crown over the next couple of days. I will also be tuning into the Baltimore Regional Championships over the weekend as well, though. So my stream will be a mix of the first major of the year plus Stellar Crown.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just be scrolling on TikTok sometimes and I'll see some random person who I've never seen before, like just playing TCG Live. There's
Wait,
this like
really?
one Japanese account that'll come up every once in a while where someone literally just has like their phone that they're streaming from pointed at an iPad, and they're playing TCG Live on their iPad, and it's in all Japanese.
That's hilarious. They have their phone pointed at an iPad. That's
Yeah.
funny.
And there was like 300 people watching them too. Like it was,
Damn.
no, no,
What were they playing?
block lax.
Dude, they have 300 people watching them play block lacks on an iPad streaming from their phone. Jeez,
Oh man, someone
that's
else in the
insane.
that's listening has surely seen this like on their TikTok feed. That's
That's funny.
hilarious though. But yeah, so let's talk about some of the things that we're most excited to try from the new set. You did a set review, right? Or did you do a buy list? You did something on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, combination of both those, a set review plus buy list thing. So I've taken a look at all the cards. There's honestly not that much new, like the new archetypes are pretty limited. There's not that much coming out of this set. Honestly, I think Shrouded Fable was probably a bigger impact than this set is going to be. But there's like some high future potential cards, especially like Area Zero. So
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like a trainer's set, right? Like the trainers from this set are what's going to be the things that end up having the lasting impact Pokemon wise.
yeah,
Terapagos EX,
that's it.
Joltig over
Oh,
Galvantula,
true.
probably.
Yeah,
Like
Galvantula's got the potential, I think, for sure. Like item lock is just so good. Doing 180 damage in item locking is like
it seems pretty tough to stream that thing though.
that is going to be the problem, of course. Yeah, streamlining it
It's a
turn
lot
after
of
turn after
work.
turn is tough. But we're gonna go over some of our top picks, 3 cards slash decks we're most excited for, whatever. I guess I'll start off. I think my number one is the new tool card, the new A spec Terra tool card. What's it called? Sparkle something. When it's
I
attached
almost
to a
said
Terra
Crystal
Pokemon,
Wall. It's not Crystal Wall. That's
yeah,
the old A spec.
is it Crystal Sparkle or something? When attached to a Terra Pokemon, it reduces the attack cost of the Terra Pokemon's attacks by 1 of any energy type. It's not
This
Crystal
card.
Wall. And I think the reason it's exciting is because I think this is like the first time that Dragon Ball might ever actually be good. I think up to this point, Dragon Ball has never been good. It's been overplayed a couple times. Mostly NAIC, it was overplayed for how bad the card is, but it definitely scaled down over them. But that was like the tournament it was most hyped for because it was when it was new. But now I think the tool card might. I think it's a powerful card. The problem has always been its consistency, and that's why we see the best way to play the card is through Reggie Drago. But I think with the Terra tool card, we might finally get to the point where the deck is consistent enough to like make it like a tier 1/tier 2 deck. So I'm excited for that tool card, but mostly because obviously Dragapult. There'll be other stuff that combos well with as well, but Dragapult's like going to be the big one, I think.
Yeah, yeah. You can use it with really like any
Terra.
Terra Pokemon. Yeah, I was trying to scroll down and find a good. I found this website, or I saw. I like knew of its existence, but I hadn't used it in a while, and I saw someone using it recently. Is the PokemonProxies.com? I think maintained by
Oh,
Jack Old of Omnipoke, which just literally has like good, solid, high quality proxies of like all the cards coming out. Um, but yeah, here's the sparkling crystal, and yeah, I think like the potential is super high, right? Using attacks with like, I mean, surely, like we mentioned, the potential of Galvantula EX. Surely, some of that potential will lie within the sparkling crystal being included, right? In order to make it so you can chain your attacks a little bit easier, right?
yeah, definitely. So that could help. I mean, the other tool that we have though is the Hourglass or whatever it's called, Power Hourglass, which I
Yep,
think is like basically does the same thing, but it stays on the Pokemon for longer. That came out in Shrouded Fable, and it says
yeah.
just at the end of your turn, attach a basic energy from your discard pile to your active Pokemon.
I did
If it's
forget
a,
about this.
yeah, if it's attached to your active Pokemon, put energy from your discard pile and put it on your active Pokemon. So for Galvantula specifically, Power Glass is probably better. Um, but the Terra card will be good for Dragapult. I mean, all the Terra Pokemon can use it because they all have like wonky attack costs, like especially all the new Terra Pokemon. I guess like stuff like I mean, Charizard is a Terra Pokemon, but I don't think we're going to be using the tool card in Charizard because Charizard
Yeah.
kind of self accelerates the energy for to itself. It doesn't really need it. Um, but we'll see what other crazy combos can come up with it, and it's like really consistent, right? Because you play with Arvin, and Arvin just finds you your tool card. You're good to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think one that I'm excited for that I haven't really seen too many people talking about. It's definitely a little bit of a cheesy combo-y type deck. That's like around Metacham EX. It is a stage one, so it's got to evolve. But this reminds me a lot of a card that was pretty strong when it first came out, the Galarian Rapidash promo. You remember that?
No, Iron Rapidash promo.
Galarian Rapidash V.
Oh, the V.
It
Yeah,
was,
I
like,
do remember that.
okay early on when it came out. I think, like, Victini VMAX decks played it, if I'm remembering right, is
Yeah, it's funny. These cards are so much harder to remember. I feel like because it was in the COVID era. I think do people play
Mhm.
this in Senna Scorch as well? Maybe people played it in Welder decks.
Welder decks, yeah.
Yeah, because it put damage counters on your opponent's active until they had 100 remaining HP. But that's when we were dealing with V maxes back in the day. So it's like effectively doing 200 damage.
Yeah.
And you're basically getting that number out of the Metacham up against something like a Charizard EX.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
mean, you're putting it down to 50 HP remaining, and there are, like, combos where you can, like, get one-hit knockouts on things, right? Poisoning plus Perilous Jungle plus Radiant Sneasler, so, like,
yeah.
yeah, you could get there, you're just one-hit KOing stuff for a double turbo attachment, but it's, like, a super heavy combo to build up to every single turn, right?
Yeah, I wonder if there's like some kind of possibility for like some kind of weird combo deck where you like set up Metacham with the double turbo energy plus the new Gravity Stone,
Mm.
which increases the retreat cost of both Pokemon by 1, and then also you play it with Calamitous Wasteland, and you like break something up, put it to 50 HP left. Next turn, counter catcher something else up, put it to 50 HP left, and then somehow KO them all at once. I haven't figured out that part. I mean, there's Dusclops and Dusknoir, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
There's a lot of like
That's pretty good
Ogerpons
math, isn't
and
it? 50 damage from the Dusclops to KO something that you just put the 50 HP remaining.
yeah, because there's a lot of bench sitters right now, Pawns and Squawkabillies and stuff like that.
I definitely think the best use for it would be something like what I talked about though with the poison package to KO, like because you
Yeah,
want it,
get
it
the
does it all
knockout.
at once, right? But then the question becomes like, is this ever better than just any? Because then it becomes like a two prize beat stick deck effectively that needs a big combo to pull it off every turn. Is that better than
Raging Bolt.
yeah? And probably not because Raging Bolt seems pretty good.
Yeah, probably
Uh,
not better than Raging Bolt.
and I think a card that probably would be in both of our top three most likely is the Area Zero Under Depths. Where is it? Here we go. Because this card is just going to unlock so much potential for so many different decks, both new and old and future.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, you get access to 8 bench Pokemon. It's pretty good. 8 bench is good. We've seen it in the past with Skyfield. Of course, you just had to have the stadium in play, so this is a little bit more limiting. You do have to have that Terra Pokemon, but so many Pokemon are Terra Pokemon. Charizard's a Terra Pokemon, Dragapult's a Terra Pokemon, Ogerpon's a Terra Pokemon. Like a lot of decks could easily take advantage of this card. You and for some other decks though, like the thing to think about is like you're not getting access to like normally have access to 5 bench spaces. If you're like trying to play a Palkia deck with Area Zero, you're only really getting access to 2 more bench spaces because you're benching a Terra Pokemon that you wouldn't have otherwise benched. So you're not getting like a ridiculous amount of extra bench space. Like if you're playing a Palkia deck and you have to bench a Terrapagos, then that's eating up one of your new bench spaces because normally you would have had 5 bench spaces that didn't include a Terrapagos. So, but it is giving you more to work with, obviously. And yeah, new stuff and old stuff. Terrapagos is obviously something that's people are talking about. Palkia, but then also just stuff like Raikou, just Miraidon with Area Zero, and you play what is the lightning one that people have been playing? It's eluding me. Is there one? I swear there was.
Mewtwo.
Yeah, Mewtwo. There's the Mewtwo EX that is a lightning Terra Pokemon. So you go Miraidon for Mewtwo plus Miraidon, play Area Zero, use the second Miraidon to get more squad. Turn one, full bench, Raikou's swinging, probably can pretty much anything.
Yep.
That could be in their active spot, and then you have follow up of like various different lightning Pokemon to go with from there. So that'll be interesting. I think that's like a cool one that is coming up. BMT's like 2 or 3 Miraidons in a turn is definitely that you'll finally probably you'll put like a third Miraidon in your list for sure because you don't want to prize one of those things. You need to chain them out.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Because you could even use all of them in the first turn to just go
Yep.
super wide. And then like of course in Miraidon specifically, you've got the options in different matchups of the Iron Hands and stuff like that. So that gives you a lot of potential. Obviously not able to use the Mewtwo as an attacker, but I don't think you mind it too much. One that I'm excited for that I've talked about plenty of times is the Crispin Energy Acceleration and finding an energy card on a supporter card. I don't know, seems pretty good. And we've seen it pop up in a few lists when we looked at some of the gym battle results. There was like a one of in a few decks. And I think that's probably,
Yeah.
where this card will end up finding itself most of the time. But it is a super strong option for those one of turns. I mean, it's similar. It feels like a similar spot to like what the one of Raihans have filled in decks before, what the one of Melanies have filled in decks before, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it puts the energy from your deck into your hand. So you first have to do that, and then you can get an energy of a different type, and you attach it to one of your Pokemon. So it is like that energy acceleration supporter. Another big card for Dragapult, I feel like overall, but will definitely like Raihan did. It'll find its way into a bunch of decks in the future as that one of energy acceleration that turns like a pretty bad board state into like a playable board state all of a sudden because of the extra energy attachment for turn.
Dude, this thing with Iron Hands, you
Yeah,
already have a generator, you go get an energy, then you only need to hit 1 from the generator and you can attach a double turbo, or if you hit 2 from the generator, you can attach the other energy you found, right?
sounds pretty good to me.
Yep.
Christmas broken. One card that I was initially excited for because I thought the gameplay would be interesting is Briar, but the more I've actually thought about Briar, the less I like the card. So you can only use it if your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining, and until the end of your turn, if your opponent's active is KO'd by damage from one of your Terra Pokemon specifically, you take 1 more prize card. And initially I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. That can create some cool gameplay." The more I thought about it, I was like, "Oh, I don't think this is that good. Like, it's okay." But then the more I thought about it further, I was like, "This isn't that good for like 2 prize decks versus 2 prize decks, but this is really annoying for 1 prize decks."
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden, the 1 prize deck's advantage of I only have 1 prizes on board becomes I only have 1 prizes on board until I have 2 prize cards remaining, and then everything's a 2 prize Pokemon if you play Briar.
Yeah.
So it makes it way harder for 1 prize decks to like make a comeback against the 2 prize decks and really take advantage of that prize exchange.
And then also the decks that want to utilize Radiant Charizard as a one prize attacker, most commonly Charizard itself, right? They want to go to that board of all one prize Pokemon, give their opponent no win condition. Now, if like a Raging Bolt player is just playing a Briar in their deck, they have the win condition of loading up a an Ogerpon and taking, you know, 2 prize cards to get around that board state. It could happen against a Dragapult as well, who's trying to do something similar. So yeah, I think Briar is probably going to be similarly to Crispin, a solid one of utility supporter for certain decks that is really strong on the turns that you need it, for the
Yeah.
matchups you need it to.
So one I was excited for initially, but now I'm no longer excited for, and I honestly, it just feels unnecessary to exist. And this is like a card that I feel like they probably should never have printed because I don't think it's gonna be inherently like overly toxic, but it'll be like a pretty limiting factor for certain styles of decks no longer being viable or making it
And
harder for them to be viable.
there will be, um, that is just one use case for it, the thing I kind of outlined. But I mean, it will also probably just be an okay one of in a Charizard deck, in a Dragapult deck.
Yeah.
Um, Especially like if your Charizard deck is playing Dusknoir and Dusclops, right? Because you can, if your opponent tries to play around the 2 prize turn, you can activate your Dusclops in order to send them to 2 prizes and then maybe take your last couple prizes, right? So there's a lot of interesting things that could come of this.
Yeah, that's definitely another big part of it is yeah, Dusknoir can kind of force the issue with Briar, right? You're like, okay, I'm gonna go instead of going from 4 to 2 prizes, I'm gonna go from 4 to 3, and now Dusknoir force you onto Briar, win the game.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see. That is like a lot of combo pieces, a lot of things you need. And that's like a big combo. But the thing that I dislike about this card more is just the limiting factor of the like how good it is against 1 prize decks. It's like
Yeah. Well, those are the things we're most excited for as of now. Let us know what you're looking forward to. And yeah, if you want to see Azul trying out the new set, be sure to pop by his stream and check it out. Let's talk about what has actually been performing well in tournaments over in City Leagues. We're bringing back City League Watch, taking a look at what's happening over in Japan. I guess we could just do this every week. But yeah, just a quick glance at some of these early results. It's kind of
this
the decks that we're mostly expecting to do well in this new format, right? And it's stuff that's been doing well in the previous format, with the exception of Dragapult being kind of added into the mix now.
Yeah, Dragapult. Well, this is also like we'll see how good Dragapult actually is. Of course, it definitely. So the way for anyone who like wants to know how they should be thinking about this, Dragapult got more powerful as a deck, but it doesn't mean it's any better to play in the metagame. Like a deck could have doubled in power, but still be a bad deck in the meta because it really does come down to how powerful are the other decks in the meta and how good are they against the deck you're playing. So Dragapult neutrally got better. It now has the option of Crispin. It now has the option of the Terra Tool card, but where will the deck actually play those is a question. We looking at this list here, it plays neither of those. Um, but the deck, like even if you don't use these options, the deck like just having more options makes the archetype more powerful. But it still might not be Dragapult might just not be able to get there still with these new additions. Look at this list that has both of them though. It's got the Crispin and the what is it called? Crystal? Did we even figure out the name of it?
Sparkling Crystal.
Sparkling Crystal.
It's at least what it's called on PokemonProxies.com. I don't know for sure
That's
what the
awesome.
English name will be, but they've also got the Gravity Stone in here. What's that for?
Yeah, so that's actually pretty cool. Like, so Dragapult really isn't. You're almost always falling behind in the prize exchange most
Mhm.
times, but it doesn't mean you're actually behind on the prize trade. So like you can have 6 prize cards remaining, and your opponent has 3, and they could take a 2 prize knockout that turn, go down to 1. But you could always be winning the next turn with like a 6 prize turn with Dragapult because of the damage spread and stuff like that. The Gravity Stone specifically can lean into that strategy a little bit more, but is more so there for like the potential of comebacks. You even see like this list has a ton of gust effects, 3 counter catcher, 2 boss. So like it allows you at the end of the game to be like Iono, counter catcher, plus gravity stone on my Dragapult, bring up like your Pheasantipity. Hit it for 200, don't KO it. Now it's not as now it's not as simple as attach to Pheasantipity retreat. And because you didn't actually take a knockout, they can't actually draw cards with Pheasantipity. They get stuck for a turn, and then you bring up like an Ogre Pawn that you spread damage to, and then you take like a 4 prize turn and close out the game. So it's there for that comeback potential in the late game.
Yeah, definitely a
Another route.
cool one to see. Let's look at some of the 2 prize decks performing well. I don't think it's any surprise to see Raging Bolt winning quite a few of these. I would have expected maybe some Area Zero builds, but quick look here, we're still seeing some Pokestop.
Yeah, I think there was a couple that were playing Noctowl that I saw.
Mm.
And then some of them do have the Briar. I'd say I think I actually did like a count, like over 50% have Briar of the winning lists. Uh, and that's pretty good for Raging Bolt because it allows you to turn your Ogre Pawn into an attacker that can win the game if your opponent pushes up a 1 prize Pokemon. So it's pretty good. And that's kind of like what I was speaking towards of like how that can be like, it almost seems like an annoying side effect of what could have been some interesting gameplay by Briar existing in like Charizard decks or something. Now all of a sudden the 1 prize decks kind of suffer as a result of the card being printed.
I have to imagine the game designers did not foresee Raging Bolt Ogre Pawn becoming a deck. Because it's
There's
not like the most obvious combo, right?
no way they didn't see Raging Ball Ogre Pawn becoming a deck.
I mean, we didn't see it for a while. It wasn't until
That is
like
true. Like
the
Japan,
end of
like
Twilight Masquerade, and that's because there's thousands of Pokemon players, and then finally one person like comes up with this idea, and then it like spreads like wildfire, right?
I
You
feel
know, when you've
like
got a couple dozen game designers working on a game, you don't
I feel
always
like
find everything.
I feel like they were people were talking about it like on set release, but then it didn't really take off
Maybe so, yeah.
until it started doing well in Japan. Like it took a
Mhm.
while, but I feel like people were playing it day one. Everyone just kind of wrote it off as a bad 2 prizer deck. And it's still it is still like an okay 2 prizer deck. It's like nothing like super special as far as beat stick 2 prizer decks. I mean, I chalked it up to the next Golden Go. I think when we were initially talking about it when it was getting released. Or did Raging Ball? Yeah, when Raging Ball was getting released. And I didn't think too much of it initially with the Ogre Pawn, but it definitely is like a massive improvement to the deck overall. Um,
But here's the list you were talking about with the Noctowl in it. This
yeah.
is pretty interesting. Um, one of the most important cards in Raging Bolt Ogre Pawn is Sada. So now, if you have a Hoot Hoot on your bench and you get Ionoed, this list is playing 4 Ultra Ball, right? Something that Ogre Pawn doesn't always play, or Raging Bolt doesn't always play. And now you can go get a Noctowl and go get yourself a Sada and Prime Catcher, and then you're doing whatever you want pretty much.
Yeah, and this list specifically also so I guess like in decks like this, I was kind of mentioning with Area Zero, if you're forcing a Terra Pokemon into your deck, you kind of lose a bench space. But it's different in like a Raging Bolt deck where we're already benching Ogre Pawns. That's already part of your 5 Pokemon that would have been on a 5 Pokemon bench. So now you're just gaining 3 bench spaces by having Area Zero in play. So we see the Noctowls and the Fanrodon to initially set them up, but then we're also seeing the Luminion in this build as well, alongside a
Yeah.
Forest Sealstone, which you don't usually see.
Yeah, a card that's like probably just naturally good in this deck, but the problem currently is that you don't have the bench space for it, right? You've got
Yeah.
Mew in a lot of builds, you've got Pheasantipity, obviously, you're always gonna have Squawkabilly in play pretty much, and then that's not to count your attacker and your Ogre Pawn to draw, right? But now with 8 bench spots, you can more flexibly play something like Luminion. And also you're working in this build, the fact that, like I mentioned, 4 Ultra Ball, not something you're used to seeing in Raging Bolts.
Yeah. There's the if you want to check out that. So all of the decks that won city leagues, um, all of them are familiar lists. But if you do look at some of or all of them are familiar archetypes. But if you do look at some of the second place lists and even like top four, reaching to the top eight, like we see, there's a couple Sarah Ledges that got seconds at some of these city leagues. And Sarah Ledge is like it's not anything we're getting now, but I am like, it makes me a little bit more hopeful for when Surging Sparks does come around because it looks like there is something that is competing against the current titans of the format. Is
This
like
does not feel like a deck that you would enjoy, though.
for a little bit. I made a pretty cool list that has like some interesting
It's
stuff in it
another two
earlier
prizer
today.
beat stick deck.
Yeah, I know, but it's like at least it's a new two prize beat stick deck. Like, um, dude. All right, the Iridas threw me off. I guess it finds your Mixer and your Greninja.
Yep.
There's no way Irida's correct. This is like when people were playing Irida in Gardevoir. Like, it's just not. Nope. There's no way.
Yeah, instead
I
of
can't.
Arvin.
Yeah, gonna say no to that. But yeah, this just gives me a little bit of hope because it is looking a little bit like the same. This is almost like a. Honestly, this kind of feels like like the Dark Times, the Vivid Voltage. This feels like a Vivid Voltage type set, to be honest. For anyone who's not familiar, what was it? What was the set before that? The
Burning Darkness.
Yeah, the set Burning Darkness came out with Eternatus, right?
Yeah.
And it was a pretty big shakeup to the format. And then Vivid Voltage came out, 3 months after that, and it changed absolutely nothing to the format. Like people tried to make Colossal VMAX work, but basically was terrible. And we basically had 8 or 6 months of Darkness Ablaze. Um,
What did I say?
Burning Darkness.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Charizard EX's attack.
So we basically had 6
My
months
bad.
of Darkness Ablaze because Vivid Voltage changed absolutely nothing. And that kind of like so far from what we've seen from Japan, it
I
does
mean,
seem
this
like
I don't think that's a fair comparison because of the powerful trainers we're getting. One thing we
no,
didn't
but
even mention is the glass trumpet.
yeah, but
And
if it just doesn't if the new decks aren't good, they're not good though, right? Like the only thing we've seen it like that's actually winning city
no,
leagues.
but the thing with Vivid Voltage is that nothing was good. There was no redeeming qualities of Vivid Voltage. The
Yeah,
best
but
trainer card was Leon. Like,
no, but like obviously with like more sets added, those trainer cards will become playable. But I'm saying like we're looking it might be like a six months of Shrouded Fable is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
obviously, like, the Area Zero's good, Knock Towel's good, the Terra Tool card is good, Great Tree is good, but if the previous archetypes don't utilize these cards, if the archetypes that are good right now do not utilize those cards and are still just all the best decks, we're gonna have to wait like a set, maybe 2
Dude,
sets until we play with the cards.
do you remember the joke around this Charizard every single format where it would be like 2 months into the format and then all the content creators had gone through the motions of like all the new decks and all the things that were performing well, and then around the same time everyone landed on their next iteration of this card every single format that it was in standard.
It was broken, bro, Leon's hard.
Leon Zard. But I was
Um,
just scrolling through Vivid Voltage here for those listening, and just to show like there were just nothing in this set for the most part like ever saw competitive play, basically
no.
ever.
Well,
Rayquaza Amazing Rare eventually did
yeah, yeah.
once Lost Box came out. And okay, we got Snorlax, okay.
Core
We
Mandai Snorlax was a big one. That was a big one.
But other than that, man, this was a rough one.
It was definitely rough. It was definitely rough.
And like you
And I
said,
think
usually something comes out eventually that makes some of these things better.
yeah,
That just never really happened.
yeah.
Raikou and Rayquaza though, that they I guess saved face a little bit.
Kind of. It's not the format that they were playing wasn't a very good format either, though.
It's true,
So
it's true.
broken Lugia format was not something I think I definitely don't look fondly back upon. So,
Dude,
but
I had this sick Orbeetle VMAX expanded deck because this was like early pandemic still, and like expanded had just recently been a thing. So like I was still kind of keeping up with it a little bit. It was like Orbeetle VMAX with Dusknoir and Tropical Beach. Oh, it was so sick.
Orbital VMAX was sick. I definitely played a lot of Orbital. It was a super fun card, the Eerie Beam. Um, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. So like from what we've seen, like I said, like it doesn't look like too much has changed. But of course, there's always the rest of the world that needs to get their hands on the cards and actually play with them. So I'm not trying to be full doom and gloom here, but from what we've seen so far, is like it's just a lot of the old decks doing well. Plus Dragapult. It seems like it's like a plus Dragapult so far.
Yeah, I mean, and here we see there was a few tournaments in a row that it looks like Gardevoir won, and there's nothing new or unique in these decks.
I mean, we got
I
the
mean,
Moonlit
this one
Hill,
has the
man.
Moonlit Hill, but like the lists like there's nothing that's really spicing up the archetype that much.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like a block of too many. Maybe honestly, we're maybe just in that situation. We're in a situation where we're just like we're kind of waiting for V stars to maybe rotate out. They're still that powerful. That might be part of it.
Yeah, speaking of V stars, we do see a couple Lugias chugging along here. Now, interesting to note, in Stellar Crown this weekend, we're not getting the Mixer A spec card,
Yeah,
which seems like it would be pretty good in Lugia. But a lot of the Lugia lists are
but
still
all of
playing
them.
Legacy Energy. They don't want to give up on the ability to use Iron Hands, which I think
This
makes
one,
sense.
this one even has an Irida, and they don't have the mixer in there, but they still have the Irida. Gotta find the
Oh,
bundle.
that's a little crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to give up on -1 prize card, right? Especially if not that many people are actually trying to respect it. The Legacy Energy seems like it's too good to give up.
And then also the
Sure.
Iron Hands as an attacker can fix
Yeah.
some of your bad matchups, right?
Yeah. Too powerful. Don't want to get rid of it yet. It would be a hard yeah, because even like the mixer, like you still need it's not like you just like play the mixer, have the mixer. It's like you gotta play the mixer. Now you need to play stuff like Irida or Arvin to actually find it. So it's like a little bit more of an endeavor to go about it, getting it done.
This is a deck that's kind of popped up recently in the current format.
Yeah.
Is this Palkia Dusknoir deck? You mentioned, if you look at the first place list, it's a lot of the same. But if you look at some of the other things that placed in this tournaments, there's some interesting things. And this is a list that got second place at a city league. Origin Form Palkia V Star, a 2/2 line with a 4/1/3 Dusknoir crammed in as well.
Yeah, something that's popped up recently, been being played a lot. I don't know how I was gonna say doing pretty well in online tournaments and stuff like that, but I actually don't know how well it's been doing in online tournaments. It's been being played a decent amount, like on the ladder and stuff. And like it's got the cool Pokestop Night Stretcher engine, which I'm actually a pretty big fan of. It's pretty fun to play that 4 Night Stretcher and then 3 to 4 Pokestop. This list has got 4. Yeah, I don't know if this is like a real deck or not. I guess like Baltimore will tell because this has no new cards. This has no Stellar Crown cards in it. It's literally just you could play this exact 60 right now if you wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, well, yeah, and that's like another thing. Like I said, like if you look down a little bit further past the winning decks are all pretty much familiar. Like some of the Raging Bolt lists honestly stand out the most as stuff that are um familiar, or that have new stuff in it. Like some of them have Noctowls and the Area Zeros. But like I said, the Sarah Ledge we're not getting for a little while, so but it's showing that there is like potential for the Sarah Ledge, which is like something that I'm hopeful for. But I saw some there it is. Like there's a Terrapagos deck right there. Top 8 with Terrapagos. And for anyone who's curious, all city leagues are 64 players.
Yeah.
I believe they like all pretty much cap. Like they always are all capped at 64. So there's that Terrapagos. That's like the combo Terrapagos as well with the Dustnor and the Briar and all that.
See some Blocklax. No surprise to see it rearing its ugly head.
That's one crushing
Dude,
hammer, bro.
imagine you go up against a Blocklax player, you can't retreat, and then they throw a gravity stone on their Snorlax.
Just in case you
That's
can't
like
sing
that's like
cologne.
putting a gravity stone on your Snorlax like is asserting dominance for sure. Honestly, if your opponent ever does that to you, you should call a judge for unsportsmanlike conduct. Because
They also have Calamitous Wasteland too. Like,
wait, hold up,
what are they prepping? They're putting this on like Mimikyu or something. They're like, all right, if you send up that other Pokemon, you can hit me for
dude.
50.
They're playing around the canceling cologne to get
Yeah.
around the block. That's what it is.
Honestly, that probably is. I mean, that's probably part of the reason, but also turns like anything into a block Snorlax, right? Not anything, but more of your Pokemon. Like if they have a Pokemon that can hit like an Ogerpon for like 100 or 110, so they have to 2 KO it, like you just go like, all right, Penny, the Ogerpon, reset it, counter catch up something else, put down the stone, put down the Calamitous Wasteland, and now you have to work 2 turns to actually get back into the active to punch the Ogerpon and not even KO it. That's pretty annoying. Yeah, that's just annoying. That turns literally any deck into like a block lax deck. What the heck?
Yeah, Gravity Stone's something we'll probably see pop up at some point. And we haven't really looked at the Regidrago lists yet, but again, there's really nothing new.
Nope.
Another
Nothing
deck that
new.
could theoretically use Area Zero, but uh, it does seem like the trend. A lot of people are switching to the Jamming Tower, which I think makes a lot of sense, honestly, in the new format with you can shut down the Dragapult tool, right?
Yeah. Bravery
Um,
Charms and
Bravery Charms, booster capsules. I actually think if I was playing Drago in Baltimore this weekend, like I would probably play Jamming Tower as my stadium as opposed to Temple.
I don't know. I still think Lugia will be more popular. I guess it
I don't think
depends.
so.
You think Ancient Box is gonna be more? I guess it cuts. There's like the other little stuff it does for you as well, the Jamming Tower. But
Yeah, all the bravery charms, right? The Miraidons, the Raging Bolts.
I could see it. I still think Lugia's gonna be pretty popular, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about that a little bit more later as well.
Yep.
Um, all right. Well, yeah, a lot of the same, which is I always, but I've been like trying to check myself more recently when we look at results from Japan, like to not get too excited or too doom and gloom. Like obviously this does not look that exciting because we've been basically playing this exact same format for a long time now, like a little while. So it looks like it's kind of more of a continuation, like Shroud of Fable Part Two, as opposed to Stellar Crown format. But there's like, everyone else has to get their hands on the cards. I'm definitely gonna be trying out a bunch of different stuff that's not just these winning lists from these city leagues. Yeah, the rest of the world has to get their hands on the cards. So I'm sure there's gonna be some stuff that pops up and is still pretty good. It won't be just same old, same old.
All right. Well, we can move on here to guess the flavor text. But before we do, we got to take a moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Dragon Shield, for being a supporter of us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. Of course, Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products on the market. We love the sleeves. We use them for any events that we play in. And Azul's not going to Baltimore this weekend, but if he was, I'm sure he'd be using some Dragon Shields.
It would be. I have the the matte
The Yap.
yellows.
You would have the
The
Yap for sure.
the matte yellow is still stocked and ready to go. So
If they
that
released a
make
colorway that was Yap, you would be the number one customer without a doubt.
Yap yellow matte
Yeah.
dragon shields. um, but yeah, won't be rocking any dragon shields this weekend. But I'm definitely excited to tune in to watch everyone else play. But yeah, shout out Dragon Shields always sponsoring us here on the podcast. Be sure to use code UEPOD. Get yourself a discount over there. Try to support us over here. We always appreciate it. All right, Chip. Got guess that flavor text this week. It's my turn to pick a card for you to try and guess which Pokemon belongs to the flavor text I'm about to read you. If Chip gets it right without using any lifelines, he'll get 4 points. For each lifeline used, minus 1 point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name. I think we both got points the last 2 weeks, right?
We have. We're on a nice little roll here. I got 3 points with the Breloom. You only got 1 point with the Crobat. There's a lot of people in the comments
Yeah.
that were like saying that they were screaming at their TVs, their phones, their computers, saying Azul, it's Crobat.
It's Crobat. Yeah. I still got
You
the 1
got there
point though in the
eventually, though.
end.
You did
Yeah.
get there, so we got to give props where props are due.
Yeah. It was the attack name that carried me this time. What was the attack name?
Skill dive.
Skill dive. Skill dive. All right, Chip, are you ready for this week's flavor text?
Let's get it.
All right. It can stop its opponent's it can stop its opponent's movements with just a glare. It takes in solar energy and boosts it internally.
Interesting. So stops its opponents with a glare, takes in sunlight. I mean, that definitely makes me think of some grass type Pokemon of some sort, like some solar beam type thing. The glare bit I don't know what grass type Pokemon, because glare makes me think of the video game move glare, which is had by a lot of the like Sandaconda has glare, I'm pretty sure. Like hmm. But yeah, I don't think it's Anaconda. Let's hear the flavor text one more time.
It can stop its opponent's movements with just a glare. It takes in solar energy and boosts it internally.
Oh, is it ever just Venusaur? Solar energy. It could be Venusaur, I guess. All right, let's go with what stage the card is for my first lifeline.
It is a stage 2.
I mean, it also could, I guess, be Vileplume. But I don't think Vileplume is really glaring at anyone. It definitely feels very much more Venusaur. What set is the card from?
Fates collide.
Okay. Well, that does help me. Oh, I know exactly what it is. It's Superior.
Locking it in.
Locking it in.
It
Oh
is.
no! Before you say, you gotta give the last lifeline for anyone guessing
All
along
right.
at home.
The last lifelines.
It's totally not Superior, by the way.
Read an attack name.
Yeah.
The attack name is Slashing Strike.
Yep. And buddy, you made a big mistake.
What's that?
This card is in my cube.
Oh my gosh, dude, the cube is like cheating. How many cards have I brought up quite a few cards that are in your cube, haven't I? They've been quite a
I
few.
think it's only been twice, but yeah.
Oh.
I don't think Azul ever said, but I did get it right. I knew I got it right. Let's go. Superior.
Actually, there's a decent amount of lore in the comments on this card if you want to read the
Ooh.
comments.
Uh First appearance of the move Coil in the TCG. It has since appeared on Sword and Shield Sandaconda, Fusion Strike, Scorch, and Lost Origin Electros.
And then also from Bob there at the top. Last time this guy has appeared in the TCG, it's been 5 years, which was 2 years ago. So it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
There's been a superior
Well,
card.
that's not true.
Oh, wait a second. Is there a newer one?
Yeah, because we got Superior V and V Star.
Oh, true.
But
There has been a
it did have a
reappearance.
pretty long streak.
Yeah.
From Fates Collide to Silver Tempest. Nothing in the Sun and Moon era, nothing in the Sword and Shield. Or I guess not until the very end of the Sword and Shield era.
Does make me curious. I wonder which Pokemon has the longest time of not being printed in the Pokemon TCG.
Bonsly.
Oh, is it still Bond? Oh, you're right. Yeah, because only didn't they do a new one recently? Or am I
Yeah, there's a
trolling?
new one.
Oh, okay. No, but like now, who has the highest streak?
Oh, who's it? I see.
Yeah. Who is like who was?
I mean,
Every Pokemon has been printed, right?
yes. Do you
Okay.
count the like megas and stuff as separate forms?
Nah. Like that's still Manectric. Like Mega Manectric is still just Manectric or something like that.
Yeah, I wonder which Pokemon it has been the longest time since there's been a card featuring them.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. It was Bonsly until when was that? Obsidian Flame. So until like a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever. It was a year and a
Yeah.
half. It's got its attack name is Blubbery.
Bonsly is one of the Pokemon that Samuel knows its name because he has a little Bonsly plush. And so it's actually kind of funny because it's like we'll be walking in Target sometimes and there's like one of the little battle figure packs that has a Bonsly in it. I'll point to it and I'll say, like, who's that? He'll say, Bonsly.
Only 2 Bonsleys ever printed. The newest one is pretty bad. It's got the blubbering. The old one, I feel like the old one was played in a deck at some point. Maybe I'm just trolling.
No, I don't think it was. Mantike is another one that's only had 2 cards.
Mm.
But there was a Japanese Mantike at some point, I want to say. In between these two, but that we never got in America. Yeah, I wonder, I guess, is it some random Gen 1 Pokemon maybe? It's got to be one of these like Pokemon that slipped through the cracks. Like, hang on. Watchog. When's the last Watchog? Guardians Rising. Is there anything older than Guardians Rising?
That'd be a good question. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could be Watchog. Maybe got him.
I know
Even
this
Watchogs.
because I went on this thing this summer where I was trying to like get a complete living Pokedex in Scarlet Violet, like in the games. And Watchog is one of the, I think there's only like 5 Pokemon that you can't catch in one of the Nintendo Switch games. Like you would have to transfer it from a 3DS game up.
The Hog is one of them.
Yeah.
Watchog. What a Pokemon, man. Like, and he's supposed to like he's like supposed to be like wearing like a safety vest, right? Like it's what it's supposed to look like, right? That's what
I
it looks
believe
like.
that's the lore. Yeah.
He's supposed to be like the neighborhood watch in hog form.
In hog form. Dude, Watchog has seen some things, man. Look at those eyes. Those eyes have stories to tell.
It looks like the cartoon, like when someone gets like hypnotized. Like
Yeah,
a
it does.
cartoon. That's what it looks like. Dude. It's just such a silly Pokemon, man. All right.
Watchog and Patrat. Those might be the oldest one. Let us know if you can find a Pokemon older that it's been a longer time since they've been printed.
Dude, someone knows. Like, a lot of people. It's actually kind of
'Cause this
impressive. Like
is 2017, so that's what
7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah. For some people have some good guesses as to what the next one is. Someone might just know as well.
Yeah.
'Cause, like we knew it was Bonsly for a while. Because it should have been Bonsly. Was there a card older than Bonsly that didn't have another Pokemon printed of it? I doubt it.
I don't think so.
Maybe
And the
Bonsly.
thing about Bonsly as well is that like that was literally the only card that had ever been printed was that one.
Yeah.
Like the Mantike, there had been a Japanese print of something at some point, like I said, so that mixed it up a little bit, but
All right. Well, we got Baltimore coming up this weekend. I won't be going there to play. Like I said, I'll be restreaming it on my channel, which I'm kind of excited for. I did a lot more of that last season, but I haven't done a American regional. It's not that different from the European regionals, of course, but not the Furfru. We had one of those recently.
I was just double checking because that's when you also can't get on the Switch.
But yeah, we did put out a little bit of a Q&A going to the first major of the season, or we tweeted out, asking for questions from people. What do they want to know about in general or specific to like the format, the meta, whatever. So start there. Or actually, we can start with this tweet from what's it called?
Yeah, it's I'm also not going to be in Baltimore this weekend. I've got like a trip coming up with some friends, so I'm not going to be there either. And it's the first major, like either IC or US regional that I've missed, I think, since Vancouver of 2022. I think I've been to literally every single one since then. So it's the first one I've missed. And it made me wonder, what do you think is the last tournament that neither of the two of us was at? US regional or
Uh,
IC that both of us were not at because we're neither of us will be at this one.
did you cast Frankfurt?
I did cast Frankfurt because I know
Okay, I
you didn't
wasn't.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, so is that one? It had to be the Frankfurt then, right?
No. Which one that we both were not at?
Oh, both.
Like neither
Okay,
of us was
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Neither
yeah.
of us was there.
I don't know where I was going with that then.
It would probably be one of the ICs.
Like yeah, like I didn't go to the first IC ever, the first IC in Australia, but I think I've been to every IC besides that one in Frankfurt. I also didn't go to San Diego Regionals, the one that I believe Kenny Britton won with Greninja. That season is maybe
San
that's maybe
Jose.
the
San Jose.
yeah, San Jose. I went to most regionals that season, but I didn't go to everything. I definitely missed that one.
Okay. I was not at that one either. So it might be that one. And that was in 2016, buddy.
Yeah, so it
Or he got
might be that.
second? Or
Oh, he
did he
got
get
second. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mark one with Uvatol.
did you go to a different San Jose region? Oh, you won the other
Yeah,
one.
I won that one, yeah. The one before that, I did not attend, and I
So is
don't
this
remember if OCIC was before or after that, though, to be honest. The first
mm,
OCIC.
let's see, OCIC, because I
I think I've
definitely
been
did not
to
go to that.
I think I've been to every IC besides the IC came out afterwards. So that might have been the
This
answer.
also was not the first ever IC. The first ever IC was EUIC.
Oh, okay. So I think just that Melbourne and I
Did
think
you
it's the
miss
only
in Frankfurt?
in Frankfurt. I think it's the only two ICs I've never been to.
Well, I did not go to
I never
this
went to.
Melbourne IC, so that would actually be the last tournament that neither of us went to, would be this Melbourne IC,
Yeah.
which is
The one
pretty
that
wild to
Poacher
think
won.
about. That at least one of the two of us has been at a major. And you've only missed one, I guess, right? That Frankfurt since this tournament. This will be the first major event that you've missed since Frankfurt in 2022. But I guess that's true.
Yeah.
What did I not go to? I didn't go to Vancouver that year, so it's around the same, I guess, for me. But yeah, I don't know. Neither of us is going to be there. So
Yeah.
best of luck to everyone attending. And like Azul said, we did put out a tweet with some questions. Got over 50 replies of people asking us various things. We picked a few out to answer. Ready to just hop in? Oh, I guess the first thing we were going to point out. You may have
Yeah,
been
the
saying this, and I cut you off,
the
but
gaming gen tweet, you're good, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, Gaming Generations, the organizer, did put out some of the information for this weekend, like the schedule and the events that are happening, the side events and all that stuff, a map of the hall. So if you're interested in figuring out all those things, that information, be sure to go look at their Twitter. It's at Gaming Gen, and I believe they're running most of the tournaments. I think, right, or all the tournaments, something like that. So this will probably be the place to go to see this information in the future as well for future tournaments.
Yeah, just get that info out there, put it to public, let people know what's going on, what to expect. At the tournament's always nice to see. More communication information, the better. All right. Yeah, so our first question here comes from PJ. Do we think players will copy paste decks from Worlds since there is a higher volume of players, or will people attempt new ideas to combat the top three, quote unquote, top three decks? Is
I
there? I
think
don't even feel like Could you name what you think the general community thinks are the top 3 decks? Like, in I guess in terms of popularity, right?
No. I mean, just I think obviously Drago's at the top of the list, but after that,
I
it's
haven't thought
a
about
lot of
it.
question marks, right?
I guess it would be, like, what I think the community thinks are the top 3 decks in terms of popularity would probably be Drago, Charizard, Raging Bolt?
Definitely Drago and Charizard.
Yeah, and Charizard's, like, been a more recent development. It was, like, in the top 3 at Worlds, but it performed poorly, I think, compared to its popularity. And the other one was Lugia, but Lugia didn't have, like, a great showing either. There was, like, just Rahul at ninth with it, right? So,
Yeah. I think it is almost if Raging Bolt is that third deck, then we're kind of seeing the rock, paper, scissors esque format of the top three decks, right? We got Raging Bolt that has a good Drago matchup, Drago that has a good Charizard matchup, and Charizard that has a good Raging Bolt matchup.
yeah. But I feel like the format's not that simple because there's a lot of other decks that kind of slot in.
Sure, there's other decks that
Yeah, yeah,
exist,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
like at the like that, I feel like is a very common theme between whatever the top three decks are in any given format,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe PJ is just using top 3 decks as a placeholder for, like, the top decks. 'Cause I feel like that there's not really a like, I feel like when I, like, read the question, I was like, I feel like there's not a solidified top 3. But yeah, what do you think? Like, where are people gonna be going with deck lists? Because I feel like things have developed quite a bit post-Worlds in terms of lists and, um, and
Yeah.
even just, like, archetypes that people are playing. Like, Ancient Box is the one to call out here as being, like, the cool new deck or the new big deck that's in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality, and this is probably true for every tournament that takes place after another tournament in a format, is you will see both of these things, right?
Yeah.
You'll see people that just pick up decks that did well at Worlds, maybe change a couple cards, one or two, and then roll with it, right? I think you'll see plenty of people playing Bradner and Ian Robb and Raz's Drago
Starters. Yeah.
lists, right? You'll see plenty of people playing Jesse's Miraidon list with maybe one or two changes. You'll see people pick up Sanosuke's list. You'll see people pick up Fernando's list. Like you'll see people pick up all these top eight decks and maybe change a card or two, right? But then you'll also see people who go that step further and uh try to figure out what answers those things. And that's what Ancient Box has kind of become. Raging Bolt seems like it's picked up a bit in the popularity as well because it is probably really good into all of the two prize decks and Drago, right?
Yeah.
Um, just has a hard time against Charizard and Guardy, but if Charizard and Guardy aren't a big part of the meta, right? It's just all these questions. So the reality is you'll see both of the things. Um, and both classes of people will have success, right? People will pick up good lists and do well with them because the decks are good and the game is accessible in that way. But then you'll also, I think, more often than not, the people who do have success will be the people who combat the meta.
Yeah, like the people who will usually see be having like consistent success, right? They'll be successful here, they'll be successful in the next major are the people who are the innovators. There'll be
Yeah.
some people who are successful with copying a deck, but they're a little bit more into just the mix of other people copying decks and they're not trying to, go to that next level. But yeah, it'll be like a mix of all. I mean, I think some lists are like a little bit harder to do anything with, specifically like, Jesse's Miraidon or the Sanosuke's Roaring Moon. Like those decks just have less, like in terms of like, the innovation ceiling is just lower in those kind of decks, right? And I think both those lists were super refined from both those players, and they brought like really high level builds of both those decks. So there's not as much to work with because of how much they've already worked on them, and then just kind of the archetypes themselves. So but like I think stuff with and I think Drago's we saw some different builds of Drago being brought, but nothing too crazy different amongst the top performers, right? Some key choice differences. But there's not that much innovating to do with Drago either. I think it's more so the biggest thing is just like what archetypes are gonna reappear or disappear. I think the deck that'll probably have a disappearing act will be Gardevoir, and the reappearing act will come in from Ancient Box.
Our next question from Eric Ridgway. He asks, do you think the new structure means that all players should be attempting to establish gentlemen's agreements to ensure the match has a winner, at least early in day one? Of course, this event will be the first massive scale tournament with the new tournament structure. You need 21 match points to make it from day one to day two. There will be less Swiss rounds in day two. So you'll need a very, very high record point uh
Cut.
to make cut. And that was true previously as well, right?
Yeah.
Um I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, you
What
almost
do you
yeah, yeah. Yeah, your just win to loss ratio will have to be better than it was previous. Well, actually, it might be about the same to be honest. But no, I think you have to have a better win to loss ratio in the new format, right? But you'll play less rounds, so you need less match points to make cut. I actually did the math on my stream the other day, and for the number we're expecting or roughly expecting at Baltimore in last year's format, 300 people would have made day two, roughly. And with the new system, it's like 130. So less than 50% of what was is going to be making day two at these bigger tournaments, which is
Yeah,
just interesting number to put out there. And I guess that I don't know if that speaks too much to like whether or not we should be IDing the the thing that makes the
gentlemen's
big
agreements.
yeah, making gentlemen's agreements, not IDing, making gentlemen's agreements to have there not be a tie. The biggest question there is just when you get down to making cut or making asymmetrical cut, do the ties matter, or is it always going to be like even? Is it going to be people who are because how many rounds are we actually looking at for this tournament? It's going to be 12, or it's going to be 9-4,
14. Yeah,
9 and
or
5.
yeah, 9 and
Should be
5.
9-4, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So we're looking at 9-4 rounds. Is it always going to be everyone who's 11-2 is going to be in cut, and like the tie? So in those situations, the ties don't matter, except for maybe putting you in a higher seed, which means you dodge asymmetrical. But is that worth the trade off of like taking away the potential of you winning a match by making a gentleman's agreement? Um, so I don't know for sure because I haven't really done the math myself. And if someone wants to post in the comments like the math they've come to that makes them think you should or shouldn't, but that's what it's going to be at the end of the day. Because if it's like the people who make asymmetrical cut have a tie in their record, then getting like one tie is not a bad thing, right? Because that's what you're playing towards at the end of the day. Is like the potential for that the
Yeah.
top eight or I guess even like making top 32 if the cutoff difference for top 32 or top 16 is a match point, then picking up a tie at some point is not bad. Maybe at the second tie is where you start making your gentlemen's agreements though. Because I think things will maybe start
Yeah.
to be like decently predictable in terms of the record you need to actually make asymmetrical, like it being X and 2 or whatever.
So it will be 13 total rounds, 9 day 1, 4 day 2. And yeah, I think that it is so 13 Swiss rounds. What kind of record are we thinking is the minimum, right? 11 and 2.
Yeah,
11 and
minimum.
2 is the minimum. So the difference
So
between 11 and 2 and 11-1-1, if you're talking about uh like I think that you should not actively be seeking gentlemen's agreements most of the time, because that one match point is not going to make a difference in you making cut or not, most likely, right? Because you can only afford to lose one more game, regardless, right? So I think in that sense, a lot of people would say like, oh, if I can only afford to lose one more game, um, one of us should get more match points. Like that's the mentality, right? Um, one of
so
us.
I just quickly did a thing on Limitless, like a simulation, whatever point simulation on Limitless, their Swiss calculator, and it says that 10 people will have 33 points.
And that does that
Um,
account
oh
that accounts for the new structure and everything?
yeah, yeah. Someone told me that Robin already updated with the new structure, so that means the goal has to be 11-2, right?
Yeah.
So if your goal is 11-2, I think if your goal is to try and win the tournament or top eight the tournament, based on these numbers, it seems like you should be making gentlemen's agreements and like
W
try
So
not have ties happen.
but it depends on, I think you have to accept the reality of tournament Pokemon in a little bit here, and that is that ties are gonna happen at some point. So the difference
Maybe.
if you think about it only from your point of view, you as the individual, right? So, because here's what could potentially happen, right? You so there's 2 let's say there's 2 different scenarios. Okay, you're 2-0 in the tournament, and you're gonna tie your round 3 game. You and your opponent make a gentleman's agreement, they win, so you lose a match, and then you go on through the rest of the tournament. You lose one more match, and then you get to your winning in round, and you lose your winning in round, right? So you're 11 and uh, you're 10-2, and then you lose this last round. So now you go to 10-3, right? That's going to drop you way down in the rankings. But if you tied in that third round, you lose one more round. You're 10-1-1 going into the last round. You lose your last winning in round. Now you're 10-2-1. that's going to put you up above in the final standings and give you a better chance at like top 32 and top 64. And like the prizing laddering matters for all these things. There's money on the line.
Yeah,
And I
sure. I guess it depends what your goal is.
Well, no, it doesn't make a difference what your goal is. If your goal is to win the tournament, you've put yourself in the same position both ways, right? You win, you get in, you lose and you don't.
Well,
But in
not
one instance, you lose and you still come away with $1,000.
not exactly, because if you just play if you think you're the better player, which you should just always assume you are, and you play better in that game 3 and you put yourself in a position where you're winning the game 3 and then it's a tie instead of a win, you gave yourself less Pokemon to get wins out of, because you were okay with getting a tie there, which means even though you played better than your opponent in that last game, we're assuming you're the better player, the more prepared player, you put yourself in the position where you are winning and would have won the gentleman's agreement because you are better and you played better. Now it's a tie instead of a win. When if you had just made the gentleman's agreement, you're like, I'm the better player, I'm going to play better, I'm better prepared, so as long as I have a gentleman's agreement in all my rounds, I will walk away with only wins in the tie scenarios, or more likely wins than ties. Then now all of a sudden it goes from 10-1 to 11-2, right?
Sure.
I would like in my head, I'm like I'm always betting on myself in those
Yeah, that's fair.
situations. I actually
And I
want to
guess some things
see.
could be dependent, like matchup dependent, right? Like,
Yeah,
do you gentlemen's whenever you know you have a 70-30 matchup and or a 30-70 matchup and you're probably going to be losing?
yeah, I guess it's like where things would come up as well, and like, do you actually know that going into the round, at all or not as well? And I think if they are closer, if it's like 60-40s, 40-60s, then I would definitely, or like 40-60s, like unfavored, I would still take the gentleman's in those situations probably. I guess you can make an argument for the other situations though, for sure.
I had a situation at NAIC this year where in round 2, I declined a gentleman's agreement. We were both 0-1 in the tournament. But we were going to game 3. I was playing Gardevoir and he was playing Lugia. And I declined the gentleman's agreement because I'm going to be behind when we go to time.
I guess that's
And
the other question as well. Like, what are you doing for your gentleman's agreements? Most
yeah,
people do prize cards, and I think it's like the safest bet for most players to do. I never make gentleman's agreements on prize cards. I only do board state, but I definitely it's understandable why people do it the other way around.
but yeah, I declined the gentleman's and then he goes draw pass. I get set up. He goes draw, put one Archeops in play. I go knock out the Archeops, and then I would have won the game if we had. And if we had
Okay.
done the gentleman's agreement, he would have honored it as well because he's the one proposing it. I know him
Yeah.
as well; like he would have honored it. But of course, I said no to the gentleman's agreement, so we get tie on the match slip, and there you go.
Yeah. I was actually just curious because I forget. I was pretty sure it ended this way at Worlds, but yeah, like at Worlds, all the records were clean on the bottom half of the asymmetrical cut at 10-2. Um,
Yeah,
which I think is what we'll probably see moving forward. I think players are gonna, especially once you're in day 2, are gonna play in a way where it's like they're playing for the top 8 spot, more aggressively, scooping games, just knowing that like the result of a win. And I was like unsure about that going into the season because I didn't like do the math. I've never experienced the true Swiss system before. For anyone who's curious, the true Swiss system comes from chess, and in the past, we've up to this season we've done a modified Swiss system, which just means we had more rounds than you're actually supposed to. We weren't following like the true rules of the Swiss system, but going to this season, we are following true Swiss. Um, and I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. And it basically kind of comes down to how the community responds and how players choose to play within the rules of the system that they're given, right? But it seems like players are playing pretty aggressively towards avoiding ties. At first, I didn't think it would be like that consequential one way or another, and I don't think it should overly impact your deck choice. The deck that's going to win the most matches is going to win the most matches. Um, yeah, I think the top cuts I think are going to be pretty clean. Like we'll still have asymmetrical cuts in terms of like 9 people, 10 people making their way into cut, but I think it's going to be pretty clean at like 11 and 2s at the bottom half. So I think playing towards that, playing with that in mind, I think is if you're a player showing up trying to top 8 trying to win, I think it seems to me like making gentlemen's agreements from round 1 on is not unreasonable. And we'll have to wait and see how some more play out. So don't take my word for it and just run with it. If you can do the math yourself, or you know someone who's good at doing the math, so you can like get a more concrete idea of what it's going to look like. But so far, from what it seems to me, it seems like that's maybe the going to be the route to take is doing gentleman agreements.
Our next question comes from Alec Thomas, who says, it seems like Dragapult has had some success in online tournaments lately, with Charizard and Ancient Box getting more popular and Lugia and Raging Bolt falling off a bit. Is Dragapult a possible sleeper pick, or are we anticipating as much of a turbo meta as Worlds was?
Yeah, so Dragon Ball's still bad. Like, I don't think that's the deck is saved. Your Regidrago matchup is bad, and online tournaments are not there are I think online tournaments are a good representation of how the meta is adjusting and people responding to what was or what just won the last major tournament and countering it and then coming up with counters to counters. But the numbers are like super skewed and like overinflated. Like Charizard was the most popular deck at one of the more recent big online tournaments, and Regidrago is like 7%. Like that's not gonna like Regidrago is not gonna be 7% at Baltimore, and Charizard probably also will not be the most popular deck by like 3x what Regidrago was. So online tournaments are yeah, they're like a good representation of what people are thinking, I feel like Ancient Box started popping up and winning online tournaments and doing super well. And then Charizard kind of popped up as a response to that. So I think everyone's like realizing, oh, Ancient Box is good. These other decks are beating up on Drago, or people are trying to beat up on Drago with these decks like Raging Bolt. Oh, Charizard's good against all of these decks. Okay, now I'm gonna play Charizard. But like the numbers are like drastically inflated in these online tournaments. So online tournament meta percentages are not a good representation of what major tournament meta percentage will be, but the fluctuation of decks and what people are choosing to play to like counter or like the meta evolving is a good representation of how people are viewing the meta in the current uh in the Pokemon TCG, I feel like. So no, Regidrago still sucks and
Nope,
ancient
nope. Dragapult.
Dragapult still sucks. Dragapult still sucks. Charizard's okay. Ancient Box. I don't know. This could be the best format or the best meta that Ancient Box has ever had as a deck, but the deck is still pretty mid.
Yeah, I think if you want to play Dragapult, you should just play Regidrago.
Yep.
Regidrago is the best way to play Dragapult right now. Um,
That might change with Stellar Crown. We'll see.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it probably will change with Stellar Crown. All right, next question from Austin Charles says, "Is it valid to use World's meta percentages as a baseline for what we should expect in Baltimore, or should that be treated differently because of the different caliber of player at Worlds versus a public regional like this?" And I think it's less about the players and more just about the changing meta.
Yeah. I mean, I think using it as a baseline is probably fine. And then working
Yeah.
out from there, like, what do you think? It's like, okay, this deck won, or these decks are popular, or what should become popular based on sometimes hype. Like, Ancient Box is probably going to be more popular, and we can read into that based on hype. But then you could be like, well, maybe there's like a more under the radar deck you could look at and be like, well, this deck lines up well into all the decks that are being hyped right now. So not only do I think it's a good play and might play it, but I should assume it'll be more popular because of that. Even though like maybe the online tournament meta isn't like a indicative of that. It's like not mirroring what you're thinking. It doesn't mean you're wrong. Um, but I guess there's maybe a little bit of that, the caliber of player thing. I think a lot more players who went to Worlds were probably more comfortable with Reggie Drago than like the percentage wise. Like the percentage of players who are comfortable with Reggie Drago at the World Championships is probably higher than it will be at Baltimore. Um, but not by like a whole ton, I don't think.
Our next question from Aiden Koos. He asks, Ancient Box or Great Tusk Mill? You have to play one of them, Azul.
Well, a
Which
lot of
one are you
people,
locking in?
a lot of people turned their ancient box decks into like pseudo Great Tusk Mill decks. Which it is a good tech in the deck right now. It is good to include a Great Tusk in your ancient box, but honestly, I'm like so always constantly underwhelmed by ancient box. I would go with Great Tusk Mill.
Dude, I'm right there with you, baby. Great Tusk Mill. I hope so badly, Aiden said to himself when he tweeted, "These are the two decks I'm thinking about, and I'm going to go with whatever they say." I hope that he's going with Great Tusk Mill now
Hey, I saw All Out Blitzel tweet out a list. I think it was Blitzel was like, "This is the play for Baltimore" or something. It was a pretty interesting build too. There were some interesting
because he
inclusions.
gets the neutralization zone. That's kind of sick.
Yeah, yeah, it does get the neutralization zone. A card that we haven't really seen pop up too much at all in anything. But is pretty good in Great Tusk Mill because I don't think for people who don't understand Great Tusk Mill as a deck, the deck doesn't win. It does sometimes win by literally milling your opponent out of cards, but you usually win by making your opponent run out of options through not having an answer to KO Mimikyu, or not being able to retreat out of Mawile anymore, or running out of stadium bumps. And then you put neutralization zone in play, and then your opponent's V and EX Pokemon can no longer damage your Great Tusk.
And then you can just mill them for one every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you've only got one Great Tusk that they can't KO.
Yeah, so that's how the deck actually win, or like running them out of switch cards with your counter catches and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like that's the what you're not trying to like mill them before they draw 6 prize cards. You're trying to uh run them out of options to deal with your actual win conditions. Usually.
Next question from Reese, who asks, "What is the best A spec for Zard?" So a few options, right? Prime Catcher, obviously. Unfair Stamp, obviously. Hero's Cape, something we've seen pop up over time. What do you think,
Yeah.
Azul?
That's been a big one in online tournaments recently from what I've seen is the Hero's Cape. I think the Hero's Cape is pretty good. Takes away the Ogre line play. I just haven't like my experience with Charizard recently isn't that much. I mean, you can look at like the big Zard players from the World Championships. I mean, Tord, I believe, ran the unfair stamp. I
These are the
think,
percentages at Worlds. In
yeah, I
day
think
2, 53% had Prime Catcher, 33 had Unfair Stamp, and 13 had Hero's Cape.
I think Azevedo and Petrucci played Prime. Yeah, they did play Prime. So we're seeing a couple different things pop up uh, as like options. I'm not sure what is best though. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you for sure what I think is best. My experience with Charizard in the current format is like zero. Um, but they all
Yeah,
seem
and
decent.
all of them did well. Hero's Cape, Prime Catcher, and Unfair Stamp all had respectable finishes, right?
Yeah, yeah, they all made their way up there. So work off of what the testing you've done so far. If you're picking between them right now, where your testing has led you, which one is you believe to be the best? Just go with it. Just go with what your preparation has told you so far.
Our next question here from Zach Tribus, who asks, "Is Iron Thorns still viable with recent shifts in the meta?" Obviously, Iron Thorns was the deck that won the World Championships. Is it still something that people should consider playing at Baltimore?
I've been pretty high on it recently. I feel like overall, like it just feels like the meta hasn't really changed too much. I mean, Ancient Box is the big thing that has popped up recently, but besides that, it's basically the same meta. Drago, Charizard, Raging Bolt, Lugia. Like you're prepared for all these decks. Turbo Roid Moon, Miraidon are both like fine matchups as well. It really is just Ancient Box that has popped up and is like, okay, this is a bad matchup that wasn't really there before at Worlds and is now here at Baltimore. But I don't know. I think Ancient Box is gonna be like a 7% of the meta, so it's like not a terrible gamble on the Thorns. Because like like I said, the rest of your matchups are like fine. I guess like one thing to go with that as well. Your Gardevoir matchup was not as bad as Ancient Box probably, but it was still a bad matchup, and I expect Gardevoir to be like almost non-existent at Baltimore. So I guess that's like a thing. So maybe it's a kind of just more of a trade-off than lose a bad matchup, gain a bad matchup instead of just gain a bad matchup.
Next question from Typical Chan asks, "Why isn't there more hype around Snorlax?" So Snorlax is like a deck that no matter how good of a play it seems like, it's never going to have that much hype. Probably the peak of it was going into EUIC this past season.
Yeah.
Um, People were like really freaking out about Snorlax. And it did do pretty well. Like control Snorlaxy things. Like Burt Walters top aided with a control list that had like 3 Snorlax in it, but then also Alessandro top forward with a list that had no Snorlax in it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, what do you think is why isn't as someone who played Snorlax to the World Championships, why is there not more hype around the deck right now?
I mean, yeah, it's just one of those decks, right? It's never going to be that popular. It's never going to be that hype. I mean, Iron Thorns just won the World Championships, but it's once again, it's one of those, and it's usually just the decks that are boring. Like no one wants to play Iron Thorns. Nobody wants to play Quad Snorlax, right? Like obviously to win tournaments, it's a little bit different. Um, Maybe Fernando hates Iron Thorns, but if he's just like, this is the best deck, I'm going to go win Worlds with it, then who cares,
Is
right?
that how you felt at Stockholm winning with
Yeah, I mean,
Snorlax?
yeah, I mean, stock. It's not an overly enjoyable or overly fun deck to play. You don't really do that much. I say, like, you're not really playing Pokemon. It feels like it's different than 99% of the games I played in the Pokemon TCG are not like playing Quad Snorlax. And Quad Iron Thorns is like definitely less of an offender, but it's still like once again one of the it just won Worlds. There's no hype behind Quad Thorns, and it still seems like a pretty decent play going into Baltimore because it's just not a very cool or interesting deck. And it's like you're not really playing Pokemon when you're playing the deck, like in comparison to like other Pokemon decks, right? Um, so yeah, we've had some formats in the past where it's felt like it's a really good play, Quadlax. This format feels fine for Quadlax. Your Drago matchup is close. Your like Roaring Moon matchup and Ancient Box matchup, if they play Pecharunt, are pretty bad. Ancient Box can also set up like the quad flutter main board state, but that can be pretty hard to do. You can hit them with like 2 to 3 flutes before they can even get there because it doesn't play that much Pokemon Search. And if they just catch something, you just lose. So yeah, I would say it's just one of those decks. It's never gonna be super popular, never gonna be super hyped. No matter how good of a play it is, of course, that'll like when it's a really good play, it'll be slightly more popular. It'll be more successful, obviously, but it's just one of those decks.
Uh, rank these decks that you've played at Pokemon tournaments. I can't find the other one I'm looking for. All right, we've got Block Snorlax. Didn't you play some like Robo Sub Lily's Pokédoll deck to one of the last regionals before the pandemic?
Yeah, it was literally the last one that
Why
called
can I
me.
not find it? Did you not do well?
I didn't make day 2, no.
Oh, did someone make day two with the deck so I can show it?
Not that I remember.
Oh, okay. So the Florges Doll Stall, Block Snorlax that you played to win Stockholm, or the just straight Lily's Pokédoll deck that I
uh,
can't the Lily's Pokédoll Robosub deck that I can't find. Rank those three from least enjoyable to play, most enjoyable to play.
Least enjoyable to play was probably Dollstall.
Florges?
Yeah.
That's interesting because that feels like it's the one that's got the most setup.
Yeah, it's not that hard to set this deck up. You set it pretty fast, like,
And then
and you start
and the
cooking
game is
them.
just over.
Yeah, and then the game is literally just over. It's a disgusting deck. Um, and this list too, we had like the 4 stealthy hood with the wob to beat Victini Prism. Dude, I remember I played against I forget who it was. Round 1, playing Ability Zard. They had the Victini Prism, but they also played the tech for the matchup. They played the supporter card that said your opponent discards until they have 3 bench left. So it completely destroys Dollstall set. I got a tie out of it. I did beat him one of the games.
What card? Oh,
Um,
Bell Elba and Bryson Man, maybe?
no. It was a Prism Star. Oh wait, was it the Prism
Oh,
Star that?
Lysander Prism Star.
Yeah. What did that one do?
Yeah, for each. Oh no! Cyrus Prism Star.
Yeah, I think that's the one. It's blue.
Yeah, Cyrus Prism Star. You can only play it if your active Pokemon is a water or metal Pokemon, which they were playing Jirachi, I assume, right? And your opponent chooses 2 benched Pokemon and then shuffles the others and all
Yeah.
cards attached to them into their deck.
Yeah. So that was like a pretty devastating. They had to like reset up around that, which was pretty funny. But yeah, that was a it also is definitely this. It's just so tedious. You're just flipping coins every single turn. Lusamine for Lusamine plus Bryson Man. Yeah, it's just super tedious. What does that supporter do? Chandler?
Which one?
What right there? What does that do?
Remove all effects of attacks on you and each of your Pokemon. You got rid of ADP. Oh
No.
no, never mind. That's not
What
how
was
that
this played?
works.
What was this played for?
I don't know. You played the deck.
I have no clue. Why did we play Chandler? I
Someone
do not
remind
remember.
me why he played Chandler.
But
Also,
yeah,
I found someone with a similar version of the Doll Stall deck, so I can show it at
okay.
least.
I'd say the Dollstall deck was definitely the coolest. So it was like oh
You
mine was
play
not
some of
like
this
it,
stuff.
it wasn't quite like this. It was like Guru and just dolls.
Quite a few people played Doll something.
Yeah, that was more like wall control. Mine was literally just dolls. The deck I played was just dolls, but
Dude,
it's
this
close
look
enough.
at the results from this tournament, man. Disgusting.
Disgusting. Yeah. I can't believe people like want expanded back. Sickening.
How quickly would it just devolve back into this?
I mean, immediately, I feel like the format's not being truly tested right now, so I don't really know. Like, there are decks that are good that aren't just like seemingly broken decks, but if people really tried, I don't know, it could get pretty gross pretty fast. I feel like.
Yeah, the last expanded tournament. I've heard Mahone talk about this tournament before because he was the only person in top 8 with like
A real deck.
a real deck. Like I'm aiming to attack and take all of my prize cards deck.
Yeah,
Every
and
other deck is trying to shut your opponent out of playing the game.
did you hear how he lost in top 8?
Yes, he
Oh my,
played against
legendary.
John Muscovy, who I think started a Litten, and so Mahone had a chance to KO it, and then just drew nothing for multiple turns, and then John eventually got to a board. They were in game 3 where he had nothing in play but dolls, and then Mahone can never take a knockout to go ahead on prize cards, and so he just loses.
No, it was
Something like that.
Mahone opens execute and
Oh, is that what happened? Oh, he got
yeah,
takedown by
yeah.
Litleo. I knew it had something to do with the Litleo.
Yeah. And then
Aw.
John takes it down with Litleo, and then I believe gets a Litleo out of play and just has dolls until they run out of time or
And
turn.
then he wins on +3 turns. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
It's
what it is.
crazy. That's always feels so bad when it's like, okay, I've got control right where they want them, like where I want them. We're in, like they can't win and cut. They can't win and cut if we get to game three, and then your execute gets knocked out.
That's
Um,
feels bad, man.
it feels bad. Yeah, I'd rank it least fun Florges, second least fun Stall, and then most fun was the Doll deck because it was just like it was just a cool deck. Came up with like the what I wanted to play in it like the night before, and it wasn't like super innovative or anything, but it was fun.
All right. Next question. Back to the the current topics. Sorry for the little tangent. Uh, Ipo asks thoughts on guard going into this tournament. Is it truly unplayable garbage like everyone is making it out to be? I mean, you yourself just said you didn't think Gardevoir would be that played in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think it's pretty bad play. Your Regidrago matchup is just bad. Like, and then like Miraidon is on the map now, whereas like at Worlds it was not on the map at all. I feel like
Yeah.
so, and it's not, I don't think Miraidon's gonna be super popular. But it was like what 2%? No, maybe it was like 4% at Worlds. It'll be up to like 6, 7 maybe. Because Miraidon seems pretty solid right now. It doesn't seem terrible. So yeah, things are just getting worse for Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir was like a pretty bad play at Worlds as well. So it was like over like the Gardevoir percentage at Worlds was like 10%, right? I think it was overplayed at Worlds by like a lot.
I don't
And I
think it
think
was quite 10, but it was higher than it should have been.
it was definitely higher than it should have been.
And
I
it
feel like
didn't
it
do
was
well.
no, it did not do well. So, and I have it right here. I'm actually curious. 9.6. Yeah, yeah. All right, so almost 10.
Metas, okay.
Yeah. Regidrago 24, Charizard 12.8, Lugia 12.6, Guardy 9.6.
Yeah.
So I think Guardy will be down like maybe sub 5%. I think.
Yeah, Guardy.
I think it's a pretty bad
I
play.
don't think Guardy will be on the top 6 graphic.
I would hope not. And then also like another thing is like I said, online tournaments aren't like a huge showing, but like no one's playing a Guardian online tournaments as far as I can tell. So we should see it fall off pretty fast, pretty fast.
Next one from Andrew Bruckner, who says, with the number of people playing in this event, what is the go-to thing to do to stay relaxed and prepared for 9 rounds day 1 and being able to make day 2?
Get a good night's sleep. Drink water. Eat
Stay
food.
very hydrated.
You don't have to eat a lot of food, but like some form of carbs is good for energy. Water, carbs, and caffeine. If you are someone who uses caffeine, that's it. Good night's sleep. That's the main one though. That's number one.
Yeah. I think something else that's good to do, but I don't get here thrown around that often is like during the event at some point, go outside.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Walk outside, get a little fresh air. Stay away from the smokers and get some fresh air. Call someone at home or something like that. Take your mind off the tournament for a minute and then get back in there.
I've thought about this a little bit because I've like thought about like coming up with like an optimizing routine for Pokemon tournaments or just competing in general. I think coming with some kind of like and it's probably something that's like personal, be like some kind of breathing exercise or meditation to do in between rounds. Like just literally take 2 minutes, sit down, close your eyes. I think it could be good to like recenter yourself mentally.
Yeah, Azul would sit down at a tournament and try to be getting, in the zone, finding his zen, and then he just hear a little voice, "Excuse me, Azul, can you sign my playmat?"
Go incognito, put my hood up.
Yeah, there you go. Sunglasses on, look like a poker player.
Yeah, but I think that would be like it'd be like something that'd be good. Be good to put into practice. Win or lose doesn't matter. Just like figure out where your centering is going into rounds and try and like regain that after each round.
We've got another one from Mike Moskal, who asks, what is the best 2-prize basic Pokemon deck right now? So you've got your Miraidons, your Raging Bolts, and your Roaring Moons.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could say Regidrago, but we probably want to keep it to those, right?
Yeah. I mean, Drago is not a basic 2-prize Pokemon.
Oh, true. Basic.
Yeah. I think they're meaning like the most like of the turbo decks, really.
Yeah. Not gonna put Thorns in there. Or who? I mean, do you have a go? Would you have a go-to right now? I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that yours is Raging Bolt.
Yeah, of those 3, it would be, but the real answer, baby, everyone's sleeping on him. Get out here, it's now is the time. Gouging Fire
You
for
know
the
what it
win.
is.
Let's go.
Gotta do it
No,
to
I
him.
think it is probably just Raging Bolt, to be honest. I've said that for a few weeks on the podcast. Like, if I was going to any league cups or anything like that in post worlds, like I would have been playing Raging Bolt with a Flutter Mane. Literally, just take the top 8 list from Worlds, James Goring, take his list, cut the Sandy Shocks, put in a Flutter Mane, and don't think anything more of it. That's what I would have been playing to cups and challenges if I was competing and stuff. And I would be pretty tempted to just, if I wanted to play a turbo 2 prize deck, just literally do the exact same thing for this tournament. I think that deck is solid. The list is good. Fluttermane seems like a good inclusion in the deck over the Sandy Shocks for this meta. So yeah,
Yeah, it's hard for me to go. Like I was thinking about the other two choices, Maridon or Roaring Moon. It's hard for me to go against Raging Bolt, to be honest. I think if I was to pick between the other two, I'd go with Maridon because it's less susceptible to the back-to-back Kirams from Drago, like way less susceptible. Whereas like the Roaring Moon deck almost just loses to back-to-back Kirams every single time. It's
yeah.
hard to like not lose to it. Of course, you can like out pressure them to the point where they can never get there. But yeah, I think I would go with Maridon over Moon. But it's hard to vote against Raging Bolt
I mean, you could
for
play
sure.
a tech for that play though.
Yeah, you could. You could in Roaring Moon. You could tech. What would you even have to put in a switch
You
card?
could play Manaphy. You could play Switch Cart. Like,
Yeah, yeah. You definitely could tech for it. I guess you probably want to be switch card because you're so stop heavy. And honestly, that might be worth it. Does that like line
an
up that way?
item-based healing card. What if you played Picnic Basket?
Ew, the basket was
A
it heal 30?
basket heals 30 from everything, both sides of the field.
Be kind of broken actually, to be honest. All right, lock it up. Baskets and
Picnic
every
Basket,
yeah.
Roaring Moon, buddy.
Yeah, honestly, I think if you're gonna play Roaring Moon, you should play a deterrent to the Kiram Kiram. You definitely need to play something to get around Kiram Kiram.
Yeah.
The deck is so because you need Squawk almost every game, you need Petra on every game, and then you poison your Moon when you push it to the active, so they just go Kiram Kiram and win. So all you need is a switch card, right, to heal your Petron? No, that doesn't even do it. To heal your wait, is a switch card even enough? What are we healing here?
Yeah, we need the Picnic Basket.
It's not
Or you're
even
not
that's
playing a
not
Radiant Pokemon,
I don't even think the picnic basket is enough.
Radiant Serena and Picnic
Uh,
Basket.
I guess if we heal the Moon that we push to the active and we don't use Frenzied Gouging, then I
Oh, no,
guess it
you're
is
thinking
enough.
about this way more than I am.
I know, I'm trying to solve it. Yeah, if you don't Frenzied Gouging, if you go like Storm Gouging, then the picnic basket or the switch card would save you.
Or Manaphy.
Canceling Cologne.
I mean, sure. You've got 2 Judge in your deck. I think you'll be okay.
I don't know if you will be. You're not really pressuring them that much.
I
I mean, you
mean,
are, but they can just like turbo through their deck. They know exactly what they need. There's no situationals, right? They're like, do I have to like? They don't have to hold anything. They can just go all out.
next question from George Cameron says, if this is your first year as a master, what should you expect? So this is every single year, lots of people aging up from juniors to seniors, seniors to masters. It's a whole new experience every single time. What do you think, Azul? Any tips for the people aging up into older divisions this year for the first time?
I mean, it really is just playing more Pokemon, to be honest. I'm trying to think of like a maybe. I mean, the thing is, like, I never really played in seniors, especially in this day and age. So, like, there definitely is going to be a big difference. I think when you're sitting down at the table and like match to match, like the whole atmosphere of the play area is going to be different. But I don't really have like a point I can like speak to because I didn't play as a senior very long, and especially not in the current landscape of the competition. But yeah, you're going to be playing more Pokemon. That's for sure. Actually, you're not even going to be playing more Pokemon. They're playing a lot of Pokemon at the end of last year. And we playing that much more Pokemon, right? They were getting 9 rounds.
Yeah,
And
they were getting
and
day twos.
yeah, so I don't think there's too much different to expect, to be honest. It's gonna be like the same thing. It's gonna be pretty much the same thing.
And that is the last question that we pulled out. But we are going to, as always, make a few predictions. And we're going to use a few of the questions that people left as the basis for some of our predictions. The first one from Benji Fam, who always gives us some great predictions. Which deck do you think will be more played on day one? Lugia or Raging Bolt? What do you think, Azul?
I would have said Lugia previously because I think Lugia is a better play than Raging Bolt going into the tournament. Despite like Thorns and Miraidon being, I guess, more on the map than they were previously. Um, but I think Bolt will probably be the more popular of the two as we're getting closer to the tournament.
Yeah, I think Bolt will be more popular as well, and I also think it should be. I think Bolt is probably the better deck, the better play for the event.
Nah, you're
Um,
capping.
nah, dude, Lugia. I've been really high on Lugia at tournaments in the past. I don't think that it's great right now. I think like the turbo decks in general being more popular isn't necessarily great for you because they can just aggress you out of the game oftentimes. Like even Raging Bolt, which is a good matchup for Lugia. Um, like if they just go catcher head, like maybe the Raging Bolt matchup isn't quite as favored for Lugia now with people kind of solidified on Pokemon catcher Raging Bolt, right?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how much that actually changes the matchup overall. It
I
really
mean, it
just
has
comes
to
down
have
to
a
the
pretty big
setup.
impact. Go second, catcher heads, KO Lugia, shake hand.
Well, yeah, sure. I guess if you get the player, they don't get double Lugia down. But both people are going to be choosing second in that matchup to set up, I assume. So,
Sure.
I can see it though. I can see it. I guess
Next
it could do something.
question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna move on, but if you have something else to add.
No, no, no. You're good. Next
Fun
question.
prediction here from Seagrove, who asks, how many unique decks will there be in the top 32?
All right, that's tough. So if we're looking at, I'm gonna pull up. Yeah, pull up. Where you at? Click on statistics real fast. Looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no way a Gardevoir is getting to the top 32. 6. I could see a Chien-Pao getting top 32, but I have more faith in the players at the tournament to not let that happen. So I'm gonna say there's not one there. So I'm looking at 6, 7, 8. Oof. But maybe not all these will be there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with man. I guess we could look at this too. How many were unique decks were there in top 32 at Worlds?
7, 9, oh, 8,
9.
8,
Okay.
9. Yeah, I think
9.
9. Quick check.
I'm gonna go with 7. Maybe less.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say 8, just a little bit more, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't think like there's always gonna be someone who sneaks in with like something like control in this instance at Worlds, or someone sneaks in there with like who knows, like Golden Go, or there's I think Worlds exposed kind of some more unique ideas right outside of just the top 32. Like we'll see a Snorlax probably sneak in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, like those will pop up for sure. Maybe
Yeah,
even something I don't know, something more off the wall. Even I guess I can't even think of anything more off the wall to be honest.
Gouging Fire,
No shot. It's not making it.
United
Although,
Wings
that's been like a deck that people been hyping up in my chat recently.
is what?
What's it called? Gouging
Gouging
Fire.
Fire,
Yeah, I've had a couple people be like, "Yo, Azul, when are you gonna revisit the Gouging Fire?" And I'm like, I
bro.
don't know,
You
not probably not for a while.
you play the Broken Moth. Auto the Ancient Box. Come on, buddy. Have you not read this card? How have you not seen this
No,
card?
that's what I from ancient Pokemon. Oh, what the heck? You just win?
Well, they go Gust,
True.
and then
Then
you
you
do
come
make another one.
lone moth action. Nah,
Could see it. Could see it.
terrible.
Terrible.
Put the gouging fire down. Not making top 32.
And then last question here, not one from a prediction or from a question, or sorry, last prediction here, not one from a question, one that we came up with. How many unique ace specs will there be in Top Cut? Lots of great ace specs right now. Does seem like Prime Catcher is kind of got a stranglehold on the format though with all the turbo decks. What do you think, Azul? How many unique ace specs will there be in Cut?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 3. It'll probably be Prime Catcher. Wait, sheesh. My
Do you know how
goodness.
many unique ace specs there were in Top Cut of Worlds?
2.
No, one.
Well, are we counting asymmetrical as top cut?
Oh, sure.
All right, 2.
So there were
And
two.
I'm gonna go with 3 though. I'm gonna say there's gonna be 3. I don't even know what the third will be, but there'll probably be a Lugia in there. So that's 1. Prime Catcher's 2, obviously. Maybe a Charizard with unfair stand. Honestly, what else is there? Maybe it
Heroes
will be
Cape
2.
Charizard.
Okay, I'm gonna say 3. I'm gonna say something like that gets in there.
Heroes Cape Snorlax, maybe.
Possible.
Secret Box. Secret Box, Ancient Box. I'm gonna say one, and it's just prime catcher. That's my call.
All right.
One
I'll go with
unique ace spec and cut, and it is literally just prime catcher.
dude. This is actually like kind of getting. I was really excited for like Scarlet and Violet, and as we were moving forward through the format, it was looking pretty nice. It's getting a little. I don't want to be doom and gloom though. I'm not trying to be full
Don't
doom and gloom.
don't pull out the Jake Gearhart on us, buddy. Come on.
Dude, but everything he's saying is coming true. Prime Catcher is the only good ace spec. They're about to print Magneton, which is going to make Iron Hands broken. Briar Dustnor is a problem, dude. It's crazy. Profit, Jake, Jake Gearhart.
All right. Well, thanks so much to everyone for listening. Best of luck to everyone competing in Baltimore this weekend. And if you do enjoy the podcast, please be sure to leave us a like, review, rating, subscribe, follow, all those things. Check out the second YouTube channel. Link is in the description. And if you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie. Azul is at Azul_GG. And you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy. Azul, anything else to add before we get over to the bonus episode?
No, yeah, appreciate the support as always. Good luck in Baltimore. If you want to hear more from us today, check out the bonus episode. You can get access to that by becoming a member here on the YouTube channel. And catch y'all next Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern.